amount of stress, clearly not in the stress-free zone. I think most of us are here because clearly the idea of stress at least is not unfamiliar to us. Yes, it may be TGIF, Friday evening, but we know that Monday morning must follow after this. Ways to control this, rename this, and redefine this, and potentially be stress-free. Hello there, this is Sandhya and welcome to Dynamic Living. Hello everybody, and thank you so much for joining me on this Friday evening. I know it's been a long week for all of us, a long day, but maybe in this next 15 minutes more than ever, it could be a time just for you to check in with yourself and really reclaim your wellness, and hopefully, as the topic suggests, help us to reach a stress-free zone. So while we're waiting for people to join in, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Sandhya Krishnan. I'm a wellness, mindfulness, and productivity coach. My company is called Dynamic Living, and the idea behind that is that life is not an accident that just happens to us. It's also not something that we need to retreat or escape from, but it's really something that we can live to the fullest, that we can live dynamically. So that was about me. I want to thank our partners, Fit Fraternity, for prioritizing World Stress Day, World Stress Awareness Month. We can't have enough conversations about mental health. Also to normalize this, I always say that if you've ever had a headache, if you've ever had a flu, although that's a bad word these days, we have also had ups and downs in our mental health. And that's just normal. That has to be the new normal that we all come to accept. And that's part of the conversation that I hope that we have here. So, before we begin, I would like everybody to just take a breath and try and bring yourself fully present to the next 15 minutes. Just cut everything out, and we're going to learn how to get into tune with our bodies and our minds and really analyze what's going on inside of us. If I had to ask you right now to rate, like on a scale of 1 to 10, your stress level, what would you rate it at? Go ahead and just put it in the comments. On a scale of 1 to 10, कितना stress महसूस हो रहा है? ठीक है? 1 माने no stress, 10 माने बहुत stress महसूस हो रहा है. How are we doing? Okay, I've got a 9. Yes. 5. Seeing a lot of smiles. Okay, 7, 5. Okay, so we definitely are feeling some amount of stress, clearly not in the stress-free zone. I'm happy that we have some ones as well, but I think most of us are here because clearly the idea of stress at least is not unfamiliar to us. Yes, it may be TGIF, Friday evening, but we know that Monday morning must follow after this. So let's understand what's going on. Now, I was given a topic that I normally do like over a 6-week workshop, which I now have to compress into 15 minutes. And I'm trying not to get stressed about that. So there are 5 big ideas that I want to share with you. What is stress? What exactly is this thing that we call stress? Okay. Number 2, is stress our friend? 3, how do we recognize stress? How does it manifest? It's not the same for all of us. How do we recognize stress that doesn't seem obvious to us? Number 4, how do we deal with the symptoms of stress? So these are sort of like the short-term coping mechanisms. And number 5, how do we actually live our lives in the stress-free zone, like I promised, like this topic has promised. Okay, so without further ado, what is stress? So now, today, neuroscience has got far more understanding about how our brains work than we ever did in the history of mankind. Okay? And essentially what we understand is that stress is simply our brain making a prediction about things that are going to happen in the future that we don't exactly know the outcomes of. Okay? Think of ourselves as like our caveman ancestors. We're standing at the mouth of our cave. We don't know what's outside. it's like exams aa rahe hain, like somebody said, we don't know pass ho jayenge ke fail ho jayenge. And in fact, right now the debate is we don't even know if those exams are going to happen or not. Will we get a job after this? Will my boss like my project? Will I get thrown out of my community? Will I get cancelled by the boy that I'm seeing right now? There are so many unknowns in our life, and we also tend to imagine the worst case scenario. And this is actually for our benefit. This is what's kept us alive all of these millions of years. And so its initial role was really just to protect us. Okay, say that, Sandhya. It's better that you imagine the worst case scenario. So in case there's a tiger, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a massive metabolic outlay. I'm going to pump glucose into your chest area, into your arms, your legs, so that you can be ready to fight if you need to. If you need to run, you can run from an enemy. If you need to just freeze and absolutely go, I mean, fight, flight, freeze is kind of like an idea that's gained popularity. It's not 100% as simple as that. Each of us makes these predictions in our own different way, but the beauty of that is that each of us also has ways to control this, rename this, and redefine this, and potentially be stress-free. Okay, so this is just your body alerting you that something's not right. We need to be highly prepared, and I'm going to take away all the energy from my non-essential functions right now, like digestion, repairing body, critical thinking, creative thinking, long-term problem solving. Let me just hyper focus on the threat that's in front of me. That's essentially what's going on. Now, is stress our friend or not? That was question number 2. Hi guys. Thank you to everybody who's joining in. We've often been told that I work so much better under pressure. जब अगला दिन एग्जाम है तो last minute में मैं 10 chapters पढ़ सकती हूँ, which normally would have taken me so long. When I know that there's a deadline and I'm really close to my deadline, I create my best work. What's happening there is exactly this. Our brain is putting out this massive metabolic outlay, causing us to hyper focus and say, okay, you know what, just focus on this. Now's not the time to check Instagram. Now's not the time to chat with your friends. Just focus on this. But along with that metabolic outlay, it's also pumping your body with hormones, right? Cortisol, adrenaline, norepinephrine. It's basically preparing you for a fight. It's preparing you for the worst case scenario. So while in short term it's your friend, it's also it's like saying that there's a tree branch that we can see is cracking and is about to fall. If in that moment you stop to think, oh, should I go left or should I go right, should I try and stop the branch, if you just sit and think about all of that, it's going to fall on your head. Right? What this massive metabolic outlay helps you do is to just take the shortest route away from there, or put your hands out and actually, we actually develop like superhuman strength in that moment. You've seen people like move cars or, do amazing feats of strength in that moment, but that we could never do otherwise. So for that, it is definitely useful. But when our bodies are pumped with these hormones again and again, our early man ancestors saw tiger and tree fell on them once in 2 months, 6 months. We see tigers 10 times a day, right? Oh, I woke up late. I'm going to miss my train. My boss is going to be angry with me. This project is not perfect. Everybody is going to judge me. I don't know what I want to do next. I don't know which movie to go for today. Each of these decisions actually causes us stress. And to our brain, it's really no different. There's no like 20%, 30%. Think of it as like wo fuse box mein switch hota hai na, there is on and off. Okay, so this when it trips, it's basically our brain saying, boss, something could go wrong. I need to tell you that something doesn't feel right. If you pick this party, then this friend will feel bad. If you go here, if you choose this job, then you might miss out on a much better opportunity in this job. Can you see what your brain is actually trying to do there? So for that moment, you can thank your brain and say, thank you. You're just doing your job. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I don't need to be fuse off all the time. So we're going to put our logical brain, our well brain, our calm brain, creative brain back on again, and then we're going to solve the problem. Because if we stay in this constant trip, that's eventually what leads us to all the articles that you read nowadays about what stress causes: high BP, diabetes, obesity, and make no mistake about it, death. Stress can kill you. It exacerbates, it worsens healing, because like I said, your body's not going to focus on getting better when it has a tiger to fight, right? It can only do that one thing at a time in that moment of panic. So whether you're recuperating from any kind of illness, if you have COVID, stress is not going to be your friend at times like this. Let's be absolutely clear about that. Number 3, how do we recognize stress in our bodies? How do we recognize stress in ourselves? Stress shows up in many different ways. I can give you like a bucket list of symptoms. Like I said, it's different for different people, and I'm simplifying it by causing it stress. I will just say it's your body giving you an alert, an alarm that something needs to be addressed, right? Whether the food you're eating is not right, giving you acidity, whether there is too many decisions that you have to make, whether there's too much pressure on you to be absolutely perfect or give 100% to every single job you undertake, or whether a relationship is not healthy for you and is actually putting you in that state of, oh my God, what is actually going on? Does this person really love me or not? What's going on behind my back? Are they talking about me? Are they plotting to do something against me? All of these are just your indicators, right? And how do they manifest? It could be like a headache, it could be a feeling of tightness, muscle pain, chest pain. You could have stomach, digestion problems, sleep problems. Sometimes your stress can manifest in your mood, as we are all very familiar with. You could have anxiety, that feeling of anxiousness, but also just the feeling of absolute lack of motivation, change in your sex drive. Either you just don't feel like it, or suddenly you're like hyper focusing on this. Also one of our survival functions, by the way, procreation. We become irritable, angry, sad, that feeling of vague depression. Something is not right? Something feels not okay within us. This also can manifest in our behavior, where we just feel like we don't have any kind of focus. We feel even less like meeting people, or we have like very, very like escapist kind of behavior all of a sudden. We feel like withdrawing sometimes. We feel no motivation to go out and exercise. Okay, that could be for many reasons, but let me just say even less motivation to go out and exercise, because your body's saying, boss, I need all my energy to fight this big threat that I have. Please don't ask me to do all these nice to have activities like building your muscles and building a healthy body. Is that sort of making sense to guys, to all of you? Yes, I'm seeing some agreement there. I hear you. Living in depression, so there's different aspects to it. There is a clinical diagnosis where there really is a chemical imbalance in your brain, but for a lot of what we call under the banner of depression, there are ways in which we can change our thoughts and our behaviors. Up to 40% of that is in our control. And that is the part that I'm going to ask you to focus on. How do we change? It's like what you practice grows stronger. What you practice, you get really good at, right? So if you're going to constantly ruminate on things, if you're constantly worried, constantly focusing on the worst case scenario, you'll get very good at doing that, no doubt about it. However, if we start to focus on the things that are meaningful to us, and this is where we'll come to the mechanisms to deal with stress. In the short term, I will say that let's recognize what's happening in our body, right? Like I said, there are all these hormones raging through our body. In my opinion, and a lot of neuroscientists have said this before me, this is probably the worst time to just sit down in like absolute lotus pose and meditate. Your body is full of these raging hormones, so let's try and dissipate them. Let's try and get rid of them. And I use again these standard phrases of fight, flight, freeze. If you're feeling like fleeing, that act of running will actually say, oh, okay, you want to run from the tiger? Let's go run. You want to fight? Let's punch a bag. Let's try not to get into an actual fight. Or, just like a mock MMA, sort of just work it out of your system. Do some dancing, jumping jacks. It just tells your body that, listen, you're dealing with the hormones. You can turn that switch back off. I'm dealing with it, boss. We can calm down and deal with the problem. Okay, so in the shortest way, movement is your best friend. The breath. Every mindfulness meditative practice talks about the breath. There are a lot of sort of like magical and mystical attributes attributed to the breath, but the breath does two very important things. One, it holds your attention in the present. You can only breathe in the present, not in the past, not in the future, which is where all our regrets and anxieties lie. So the breath is sort of like an anchor that you hold on to and say, I am in the present. In this moment, I am okay. And the second thing is, remember when I said right at the beginning that when we are in this arousal state, we are panicked, our heart beats faster, and we breathe very shallow, like, right? I'm a little melodramatic, yeah, I know that. And so we are going to actually hack our brain. We're going to fake it till we make it. And we're going to tell our brains that, boss, I'm going to take a deep breath now. That means that there is no tiger. I could not have possibly done this when there was a threat. So see, I'm taking a deep breath. I'm taking a nice full breath. So that means, brain, you can calm down now. And you may not see results immediately to all of this, but like I said, that which you practice becomes stronger. So I will invite you to try it, test it out for yourself, done again and again and again. These become your anchors, these become your way of overturning the symptoms of that hijack once it's happened, right? Turning off that fuse and saying, okay, I'll put the lights back on, now let me see what the problem is and logically resolve it. Very important, you are what you eat, you are what you consume. So nutritious food will keep you in a state of well-being. Junk food will mess with your hormones. Also, what you consume in terms of what you read, what you watch, the company you keep is all part of what you consume, and that affects your mental and physical well-being. That's a whole topic in itself, so I'm sorry I can't address the question on weight right now, but do know that reducing your stress will greatly help your efforts at losing weight as well. Hydration and sleep are the other two critical aspects. Basically, when you're tired, when you're dehydrated, your body is going to say, boss, listen, you're in a weak state, you're in an extremely distracted, unrested state. So therefore, I don't know if you're capable of actually dealing with what your day is going to bring for you. So let me put you in a state of high alert, just in case you need to fight something and you know, in your weakened state, you won't be able to deal with it normally. So silver bullet is sleep. This is where all of the actual problem solving happens in your brain, right? Your brain is clearing up all of the short-term memory, saying that, listen, let's sharpen our thinking for the new day. Let me see what all junk information I've collected over the day. What do I need to keep? What do I need to throw away? Let me wash this brain a couple of times through the night. Let me come up refreshed and make you feel strong. Also, all of the repair that your body has, all of the wear and tear that your body's gone through, all of the pathogens that made the viruses, bacteria that would have entered your body, in rest is when, in sleep is when you are able to fight it. So if you haven't had a very good night's restful sleep, you can try and catch a nap, but do know that your sleep deficit will add up and you will need to kind of work off that debt that you have built up in that sense, right? So if there was ever a reason to prioritize sleep, in these days, it is a non-negotiable. And in the long term, we're going to change, remember I said, our thoughts and our behaviors. And this is where I will say, let's try and focus on what's really important. Rather than dealing with these stressors, let's try and nurture what is important to us, right? What is really important to us. A large part of what the world, our samaj, our media tells us is success and happiness, most of which is like great job, new clothes, wonderful lifestyle, new car, fabulous boyfriend, girlfriend, all of these things account for 10% of our well-being. 10%. That is it. That means that 50% is sort of our genetic makeup, 40% is our thoughts and our behaviors. Genetics, we can't control. How much time we want to spend in this quadrant of 10% happiness? Are you going to spend 16 hours of your day chasing after that one raise, which will give you 10% of happiness? That too temporarily is the question I will ask you. And 40% is our thoughts. You can approach that same job with a very different mindset. And this is where I will invite you to look at our own traditions. We have such a rich tradition of well-being, of community, together we are stronger, together no tiger can attack us, right? Essentially, that's what all of our traditional practices tell us. When we share tasks, when we share duties, we also share our burdens, we share our threats. Okay. One of the biggest lessons of the Bhagavad Gita, for example, is that you have a right to the choice of action, but no right to the fruit of your action. So that means that rather than focusing on the outcome, will I pass, will I fail, will I be judged, why don't you focus instead on doing your job to the best of your ability with enjoyment? Because that's the only thing that we actually do have control over, if you think about it. Like I said, go ahead, test this out, don't take my word for it. We're now in Ramzan as well, and what a great lesson there is in there for all of us. What is this Ramzan essentially? That we're going to retreat from all of the shiny objects of the world, sit in contemplation of what is truly important to us, what is truly divine, what is truly our place in this world. And at the end of this holy month, at this end of this month of contemplation, we are going to sacrifice our attachments. We sacrifice our ego. That's the sacrifice at the end of this month. Okay? And what that means is that we will take part in this world with lightness, with enjoyment, and all of the shiny objects will come. Because when you do beautiful work, when you do work with larger meaning, in the service of many more, the rewards have to follow. They may not be your entitlement, but they must follow. But above all else, you will enjoy the present moment. You will enjoy living your life on an everyday basis. I'll end with a quote from John Lennon, who said that life is what's happening while you're making other plans. So I'll say, make your big plans and then throw them out of the window and just enjoy the everyday journey that's going to take you. Whether you reach there or not is not in our hands, but whether we enjoy the journey or not very much is. So with that, I thank each and every one of you that made the time to show up here. Thank you, fraternity. This is Sandhya Krishnan from Dynamic Living. I'll be happy to take a few questions if we have time. Do we have any questions? I do know that there were concerns about exam stress and stuff. I will say something as simple as, it's nice to kind of look at your life in the long term, right? We're going to live to 100. You need to ask yourself, if I'm going to kill myself over something that's an exam, how is this going to feature? How important is this going to be 20 years down the line, 2 years down the line? When I'm 80, there are so many people who never finished high school, who flunked a year. We pick up, we get up, we dust ourselves off, and we just start over again, right? So when you it's like saying that, look, when I'm hyper focused on the problem, I can only see this problem, right? When I give myself some distance, I can just pull myself back, look where I want to go, what kind of life I want to create for myself, and then sort of just pick my action consciously. Any other questions? So yes, your weight does impact your stress levels a lot. Your capacity simply to metabolize food, your hormones, your insulin. This impacts so many other aspects of your well-being. The simple rule is, calories in have got to be less than calories out. Give your body a chance to rest and digest. And meal times is a great time for you to practice mindfulness, meditation, so to speak, right? Sit with your plate, enjoy your meal, eat simple food, and just think about where this food has come from, right? Even your dal has come from a field far away. There are farmers who watered it. There was rain that fell. There was a sun that created all of these cycles, and you feel like part of something so amazing, and this has now reached your plate. Eat slowly, enjoy your food, let it nourish your body, and monotask. Just do one thing at a time and watch your stress go lower and lower. I'd like to know how everybody's feeling at the end of these 20 minutes. On a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate your stress at now? How is anybody feeling? Is anybody feeling a difference, a change? From 1 being the lowest of stress and 10 being the highest. Do I have any votes coming in? Oops. I always forget to scroll up. Okay, how are we doing in terms of multitasking? No, it's not good. In fact, it is terrible. There's no doubt about that. Our brain is not capable of multitasking. what our brain is actually doing is jumping rapidly from one task to another. Phone, work, phone, work, phone, work. And that does many things to us, which is that it's keeping us distracted. We lose the flow of the work, we lose the concentration, we lose the focus. We are far more prone to errors. And yes, it does cause stress as well. And above all else, for us to get that deep enjoyment out of work, we need to have uninterrupted time. Even just to study a chapter in a subject that you love, watch how you do. If you have to study it without any interruptions, or if every time you look at your phone every time it beeps. Notifications are designed to put you into a state of stress. They're always like colored red, like an alarm bell, or the vibrate feels like a mild electric current. It's basically the device saying, boss, pay attention, there's a fire, please come and deal with this above all else. That's what notification, because all of our apps, all of social media, email is designed, it's fighting for our attention, right? The attention is what it wants. So please be very, very stingy about who and what you give your attention to, because when you want to go in a focused manner, we need to be able to really have dhyana. We really need to have concentration, because in concentration lies deep-seated enjoyment as well. So multitasking, it's not possible to multitask. I'm going to ask you to take a look at the tasks that you have. Even if you say, for 5 minutes I will do this and then I will switch to this, in those 5 minutes, don't even think about something else. Surely there's nothing that needs you to be using two hands in two different directions at the same time. Because like I said, the brain will just be switching. So it's a choice that you make. It's a choice that you make. Do I want to be doing this, or do I want to do one job really well and then move to the other job, right? So these are the choices. We always have a choice, and whatever choice we make, there will be a consequence to that. Right? So if you choose to do, like just passive entertainment and be hit by like shiny, bright objects, images all the time, that's absolutely fine. It will give you joy in the moment. I will ask you, will that give you joy in the longer term, or will that give you pain in the longer term? Just a choice. There's no right or wrong to any of this. All right, then I think we've exceeded our time. Thank you again, everybody. I hope this has been helpful to you. If you have any other questions for me, feel free to just DM me. I'm Sunday Krish, SUNDAE KRISH on Instagram, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. This I really did because I know that this is such a troubling time for all of us, but really the stress is just a concept. It's just our brain trying to keep us safe, but how we deal with it and how we turn it down and eventually learn to live our lives without seeing panic and worst case scenario all the time is very much in our hands. It does take work. Sometimes it can take years to overturn old habits, but our brain is very, very capable of rewiring itself, of really sprouting new seeds of wellness, well-being, and I'll invite you to water those seeds, and these old seeds will just wither off by themselves. We don't need to worry too much about them. Okay, thank you so much, guys. I'm so glad you could join me today, and have a great evening. Take some time to savor, really slow down and enjoy the simple things of life this weekend, and please feel free to test out everything that I've suggested today.